Trees. Trees are considered to be sacred in many cultures. They symbolize strength and patience. They represent wisdom, confidence, and flexibility. Trees demonstrate growth, death, and rebirth. I consider trees to be mysterious and full of stories. If only they could talk. Just think of the stories they could share. Now, we're all familiar with the lessons trees have taught us, such as the importance of having strong roots to weather the storms of life, the importance of adapting to the changing seasons of life. Now, we're all familiar with these lessons. So now, I'd like to share with you some additional lessons that I've personally observed from trees.
Pretending to be something we're not never works out in the long run. Sure, it can be exciting at the time. We're the center of attention. Everyone wants to be around us. We're in all the pictures. But it's not sustainable. And in the end, the only one who suffers is us. We should be careful not to be easily influenced by shiny objects, especially the ones that are easily accessible. They may turn out to be toxic. Not every mushroom has our best interest. There's no amount of time that can fix a situation that's void of any further growth. It's a waste of energy. It's in our best interest to identify the dead branches in our life and have the strength to move on. Offering our support to others is not only noble, but helps us to connect with one another. However, it's important to know our threshold in order to avoid overextending ourselves, or we will eventually break. We should avoid getting involved in the monkey drama that happens around us. Nothing positive can ever come of it. Like an old tree, our age will eventually show. It's inevitable. And comparing ourselves to others can be detrimental. Besides, in a world full of filters, it's hard to tell what's natural these days anyway. We need to be aware of superficial people. It's a shallow connection with a focus on outward appearances. And when we're no longer bearing any fruit, they'll be quick to move on to the next new shiny object. It's important to remember that anything worthwhile takes time to grow. And being around people who are supportive is priceless. We need to nurture these relationships. We should avoid the temptation to follow the rushing stream of a crowd. Instead, like a tree, we need to stand firm and observe. It's amazing what we can learn from simply observing. If we find ourselves feeling some type of way about someone who randomly shows up in our neck of the woods, we need to trust our gut, even if we can't explain it. Our intuition will never lead us astray. There will be people who will take advantage of our generosity and eat all our fruit. It's important for us to know when to set boundaries. There will be times when we will encounter an unprovoked attack. People can be unpredictable. The only thing we can do is deal with the situation as best we can and move on. Closure is overrated. Unresolved trauma will eventually come to the surface and show up in our manifestations. It's important for us to address the situation in order to start the healing process. And finally, we should never be afraid to let our inner light shine through. We can take comfort in knowing that Spirit will always have our back. So as you can see, we can all learn something from a tree. I have a couple of quotes I'd like to share with you now. The first one is by Stephen McGee. Asking the question, "What are the trees doing?" may well lead to a variety of profound discoveries. And the other quote is by Bob Ross. There's nothing wrong with having a tree as a friend. I love this one. Well, this is all I have for today. Thanks so much for spending time with me. And if you have an interesting lesson you learned from a tree, I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to communicate with me through my personal email. I've listed it in the description below. Until next time, be safe and make sure to keep paying attention to your karma. It's our greatest teacher.